Coming up on show 526, Ford and VW get in bed together. The ultimate car ever crowned is an EV, and good news for electric bike owners in the US. Those stories and many more coming up on today's show. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily for Friday, 12th of July. My name is Martyn Lee, and I go through every EV story so you don't have to. I know you're busy, maybe you haven't got time, it's what I'm here for. Now look, specifically, let's address what day you're listening to this. If you are someone who listens to the podcast the minute it's released, it's not Friday. I started writing this Friday, and then I carried on working on it on Saturday, and you're probably listening on the Sunday because over the last couple of days I've been working at the British Grand Prix, the Formula 1 in Silverstone. Not actually seeing any of the racing, not actually even inside the perimeter of the racetrack. I've been outside in the fan village making podcasts, and so I would have loved to have got inside the circuit and seen some motor racing, but look, not to worry. The point is, I'm ever so sorry this podcast is late. I have been writing this for about 2 days, so you'd think it's going to be a really good one if someone spends that long writing it. Well, thank you as always to MyEV.com. It's almost a year, and it's over a year since it was June 30th that we first had MyEV on this podcast, so over a year now. Wow, it's a year and 14 days since we first heard of MyEV, a marketplace in the US for buying and selling and learning about EVs. The first time I heard about it, I thought I've got to contact them and get them on the show. So that special is still online and always will be. And if you want to check it out in the US, myev.com. Hey, there's 3 new producers of the podcast. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And actually, another company that I need to announce next week, but I want to contact them on email first. But 3 new individuals, 3 new producers, you, MIKHAIL, GROZOVSK. MIKHAIL, I hope I have your surname particularly, GROZOVSK correctly. GLEN SUTTON is a new producer. Thank you, Glenn, so much. And GUDJON, HUGBERG, BJORNSSON. And again, I really want to get your name right. It's such a respectful thing to do. GUDJON, HUGBERG, BJORNSSON. Is that correct? I really hope so. Look, thank you so much for being Patreon supporters of the podcast. It means so much, and every penny is spent making this show. Well, let's get on to the big news of the end of the week, and when it broke at the end of the week, I started writing this. It's been a couple of days, so I've had a chance to percolate this news. It's all sunk in. Ford Motor Company and Volkswagen announced they're expanding their global alliance to include EVs. This was long rumoured, but now it's been confirmed. They're going to collaborate on Argo AI to introduce autonomous vehicle technology to the US and to Europe as well. Ford's going to become the first automaker to use Volkswagen's dedicated EV architecture that's called the Modular Electric Toolkit, or MEB platform, to deliver a high-volume, zero-emission vehicle here in Europe starting in 2023. Well, Ford expects to deliver more than 600,000 European vehicles using the MEB architecture over 6 years, with a second all-new Ford model for European customers under discussion. What could that be? Well, we know that there's many segments that Ford could be in. Is it going to be a saloon? Is it going to be a family car? Is it going to be that SUV style? Could even be a truck. I mean, there's not too many of them on the roads over here, but you never know. That does include commercial vehicles as well. Things like crossovers and iconic vehicles like the Mustang and Explorer that we import into this country. Don't see many, so when you do, it's a rarity. What about VW? Volkswagen developed their MEB platform back in 2016. They've invested about $7 billion US dollars in this platform. The car maker's planning to use the platform to make 15 million electric cars over the next decade. That's for the Volkswagen Group, so all the different brands that sit underneath it. Very flexible platform, by the way. As for Ford, using the platform from VW is part of a move of $11.5 billion of investment in EVs worldwide. It supports what Ford say is their commitment to offer European customers a broad range of EVs while meeting sustainability commitments. And none of that mentions the shortcut that Ford have taken of, rather than developing their own platform, of just going to VW and saying, we need your technology. I'm sure that didn't come at a low cost, don't get me wrong. I'm sure they've paid for that privilege of climbing several rungs on the EV ladder without having to do all all of the R&D themselves, and of course it does mean that they are using somebody else's technology. But what it does mean, that's the platform that the EV sits on, the skateboard design. We call it a skateboard because it's a battery pack, and on each corner is the wheels. If you want to paint a really simple picture of that, that's what we talk about with the skateboard platform. Everything flat underneath, and then what you plonk on top, I'm sure the talented designers and engineers at these auto companies don't plonk anything, they carefully place. But what you plonk on top is effectively your own. So even though it's the same platform, even though it's going to be used by VW and Seat and Skoda and the other VW companies, Ford can do their own thing with it. So we're looking forward to seeing where this partnership goes. It's a very interesting partnership. I'm sure VW are delighted to get some money back in the door, some more the money they've spent developing this platform. The numbers that they talk about, again, big numbers, 15 million cars over the next decade by 2030. But really, it's a drop in the ocean when you look at the total number of cars out there. So brilliant work and loads more work to do. Well, a quick bit of housekeeping and some news that Tesla are having their earnings call. It's for the quarter that we've just had, that record delivery quarter, quarter 2 2019, after the market closes on Wednesday, July 24th. So we haven't got to wait too early. Some people are saying that is earlier than expected, and that could mean it's good news coming. Or you could say, actually, Tesla have been going earlier and earlier with their earnings call, so this is just following the pattern of the last few quarters. Well, Simon at Teslarati says the company would be issuing a brief advisory, as they always do, with a link to its update letter. That's going to be accessible from the Investor Relations website. A live Q&A is then scheduled for 2:30 p.m. Pacific, that's 5:30 p.m. Eastern, to discuss their strategy, their results, electric cars, their energy business, the financial results, the general outlook as well. So, as always, I'll be listening to that call and making a podcast straight after, even though it does mean that's what... there's always 4 times in a year when it's a very, very late night for me. It's into the early hours of the morning. Well, the precision stamping service provider, China Fine Blanking Technology, they're one of Tesla's suppliers, and they're in China, and they've reportedly been doubling their monthly shipments for components of relays used in the Tesla Model 3. Now, they've doubled it from 20,000 to 40,000 from August 2019, says Inside EVs. Assuming that Tesla's able to produce, on average, around 5,500 Model 3s a week, they can do about 7,000 Model 3s a week at their peak. In California, they're gearing up for 3,000 a week in China. So they're making about 5,500 a week at the moment for Model 3. Eventually, when China's on board, at the end of Q4, there'll be about 10,000 a week worldwide. The Tesla factory in California will be increasing their production significantly as well. So maybe up to about 90,000 per quarter. Again, more at the peaks. All of a sudden, a supplier doubling something as innocuous as a relay, which is as a switch to turn something on and off, is what already a relay is. From 20,000 to 40,000 sounds huge. Of course, actually, you work out those numbers, and you can see a path to that. Maybe those relays are also being used in the Model S and the Model X, and they're changing suppliers from maybe a different supplier was doing the relays for the S and the X, and they're going to use this one part across their entire range. I don't know. That's another way of explaining it. Maybe they had 2 suppliers of these relays, and now they're going with one. Therefore, the one has to double their production. So this doesn't mean that Model 3 production is doubling, just that the suppliers of the relays of the Model 3 at the moment have announced they are, or I'm not sure they announced it, but they are reportedly doubling their production. Lots of ways that you can get to that final result, by the way, but I thought you'd want to know, because in many ways it's a piece of good news story. The ultimate good news story, though, is the ultimate car of the year. Motor Trend have crowned their ultimate car of the year. Now, the selection and judging criteria have changed over the years. The trophies have changed. The vehicles most certainly have changed, but the spirit behind car of the year is the same today as it was 70 years ago. 1949, Motor Trend crowned their first car of the year. So, to celebrate that landmark, the most incredible car they could think of, the most important car they could think of, has been crowned. They said that if we were to summon all the judges and the staff over the past 70 years, we would come to a rapid consensus. No vehicle that we've awarded, says Motor Trend, no vehicle that we've awarded, be it car of the year, import car of the year, SUV or truck of the year, can equal the impact, the performance and the engineering excellence of the ultimate car of the year. That is the 2013 Tesla Model S. The mere fact the Model S exists at all is a testament to the innovation and entrepreneurship, the very qualities that once made the American automobile industry the largest, richest, most powerful in the world, writes Auto Trend, that the 11 judges unanimously voted the first vehicle designed from wheels up by a fledgling American automaker. The 2013 Motor Trend Car of the Year should be cause for celebration alone, that America can still make things. And still, the better part of a decade later, there isn't an electric car. This is what Motor Trend write. There isn't an electric car that can go as far as a Model S. That a street-legal EV can beat a ludicrous Model S to 60 miles an hour, not a Ferrari LaFerrari or a Porsche 918. Meanwhile, Tesla remains among the front runners of driver assistance technology. Autopilot and auto steer were both unveiled, albeit in different forms, on the Model S back in 2013 when they first crowned this car. I'll pop a link to Motor Trend in the show notes if you would like to read more. Electrify America have announced an agreement with Harley-Davidson to provide owners of its first all-electric motorcycle, the Harley-Davidson Livewire, with per-minute equivalent of 500 kilowatt-hours of complimentary charging over 2 years at Electrify America stations nationwide. Livewire motorcycle customers who purchase models manufactured from this August to July in 2021 can now enroll and manage their charging plan through a newly launched Electrify America mobile app, available for Android and iPhone. Harley-Davidson customers can take advantage of Electrify America's network. They've got ultra-fast EV chargers on highways and metro areas, and it's growing all the time. 42 states and the District of Columbia as well. Moving on to BMW, and BMW hasn't been too secretive about the arrival of its newest artillery of electric vehicles. In fact, the Bavarian automaker has they've published their own spy shots, the sort of official spy shots, which is a weird thing, of the car that is the iX3. You know, the X3, the SUV, enormously popular, sells bucket loads around the world. Yeah, the electric version of that. A concept that was introduced in 2018 but now confirmed for production. That's going to be next year, together with two other EVs, the BMW i4 and the iNext, says Motor1.com. Well, BMW blog got a bit more information about the all-new electric crossover. According to BMW blog's source, the iX3 is based on the G08 platform, underpins the long-wheelbase X3, and the iX3 is allegedly going to have rear-wheel drive configuration in the United States. That sounds like a fun car to drive. So the electric motor on the rear axle. BMW blog also got the moniker of iX3 as iX3 S-Drive 75. So what does that 75 refer to? In an EV, if you have an EV called the iX3 S-Drive 75, well, surely 75 must mean 75 kilowatt hours. Well, BMW blog call it 75 kilowatts of battery, but there you go. Even auto blogs can't get their kilowatts and kilowatt hours, so I'll fill in the blank there. 75 kilowatt hours of capacity in the battery pack. Well, the iX3 is going to be made in China. And it's going to be exported globally from China, and that does include sales in the US, which goes back to a question of the week that we had ages ago, all about, would you buy a car made in China, or do you think China is going to be a force in Western markets when it comes to EVs? Well, if you want the iX3, it's going to be made in China. Motor One report on that story today, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes if you want to read more. The new Nissan Leaf, well, sort of. Well, I'm not talking 62 kilowatt hours here. The 40 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf is new if you're in Australia. For those listening down under, you can finally buy the Nissan Leaf 40 kilowatt hour. It's going to be sold from August 1st at 89 dealers. I had no idea it wasn't on sale in Australia. Man, oh man, how come? Why is this? According to Inside EVs, to streamline the EV sales, Nissan's gone with one spec, the high-spec grade. It starts at $49,990, so that's at 50,000 Aussie dollars. That's equivalent of 35,000 US dollars, but be careful with comparisons because of taxes and on-road costs. Stephen Lester is Nissan Australia's MD, and Stephen Lester said that the company is expecting to see a spike in EV sales. Well, yes, Stephen, MD of Nissan Australia, you do tend to see a spike when you actually put the cars on sale. Funny that, when you sell the cars, you see an increase of sales. Isn't it amazing? It's like there's a correlation between putting the car on sale and seeing a spike in sales. These things continue to blow my mind. I don't know about you. So I'm sorry, Australia, that you didn't have the Nissan Leaf already. But according to this story, it goes on sale August 1st. I thought they would be there already. That's bonkers. Couple more stories. We'll start with batteries. LG Chem is considering building a second US battery factory. 3 people familiar with the matter have said accelerating a race to add capacity to meet growing global demand for green vehicles, according to ndtv.com. LG Chem, one of the leading EV battery makers in the world that I've talked about on this podcast recently, see EV batteries as a big future for them. Counts General Motors, VW amongst its customers. It's considering the investment of about 2 trillion won, that's about 1.7 billion US dollars, in a battery plant that will begin producing in 2022. Kentucky and Tennessee among the candidates for the plant site. A decision on the plant site expected by the end of this month. Finally, the electric cars that we are driving at the moment could be easier to live with. No kidding. Well, the Jaguar director of EVs has been piping up on this particular subject and having something to say. Rawdon Glover. I hope I've got his name right. Rawdon Glover, UK Managing Director for Jaguar. And I found a quote from him. I'm going to read you this in full. I quote, "I'd like to see a faster rollout of infrastructure in terms of scale, especially in light of the government's Road to Zero ambitions. But I think there needs to be steps to make what we have today more usable. I'm not finger pointing. It's clear that we have a role to play in that, as well as government and incumbent suppliers. But we have to make it easier to live with electric cars, from ensuring geographical coverage to raising standards so that charge points always work, to introducing a system where you have one card, ideally your credit card, to pay wherever you are. Having so many providers, each with their own payment systems that you need to sign up in their own unique way, presents an unnecessary hurdle. There needs to be leadership from the government so we can all get behind." End quote. And there's 2 kind of things that spring to mind. And again, this is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree. And if you agree or disagree with anything I say, always email me and call me out if I'm getting something wrong. My take on this, it's brilliant that a managing director is putting these quotes out there and pressuring governments and saying EVs would be hard to live with without infrastructure out there. The 2 things that come to mind. Firstly, the use case of EVs. They nearly always get charged at home. Nearly always get charged at home. We have a big job to do, by the way, to look after people who live in urban areas, in cities, and in apartments, and apartment dwellers and flat dwellers, those that can't park off-road or have a garage or have access to charging. Big job to do there to make sure that they have access to what I think should be ultra-fast charging, high-powered chargers, so that they fill up in a way that's similar to at the moment with their petrol. And so once a week, they will go and put their whatever it is, 70 or 80 kilowatt hours in their car very quickly. Then those that park off-road, in the UK about 60 to 70%, depending on what figures I read, do have off-road parking or access to charge the car overnight. That's where it happens. So yes, the infrastructure is important, but it's not critical, because I don't know about you, but if you look around you right now, I'm guessing you can see somewhere that's using electricity. Yes, electricity tends to be in quite a few places. So we have the means to charge. We just need to make sure that we bear in mind the different use cases of EVs. Majority of people are charging overnight. The other thing that does come to mind with this, by the way, and I don't mean to be critical, the other thing is that in 2019, coming out and saying, is an MD of a car company and saying, we need to sort out charging. Can you believe that there's different cards for different networks? Some of them don't work very often. There should be one card. Yeah. That's something that you should be saying 10 years ago. So it's good that he said it. I'm not criticizing, but it's kind of like, that's not new news to many people. Maybe it was designed, we don't know. Maybe it was designed to speak to a certain government minister or something, or, it was exerting some influence from someone in a high position of power. But yeah, no kidding. We do need to sort this out. Tesla realized it 10 years ago and built their own network. All right, let's move on to question of the week this week. Thanks to myev.com. Keep your comments coming in, and we'll get this out on what will officially be Sunday's show, and hopefully that will be out on Sunday as well. Should we do things like electric racing, doing YouTube stunts, setting records, which inevitably means charging your car on a grid that has burnt some fossil fuels, even a bit of coal, a bit of gas to charge your car? Is it worth it, or should we make sure that we aren't doing those things for fear of being hypocritical? Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. Leave a comment on Facebook or the, YouTube. Right, there are 233 patrons of the show whose generosity means that I get to make this every single day. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to check out what it's all about, patreon.com/evnewsdaily. Thank you to my premium partners, Phil Roberts or Electric Future. Thank you, Phil, Brad Crosby, and latest member of the gang, Avid Technology. Ask Avid is coming soon, and keep your comments coming in for that. By the way, another name to add soon, but I need to have a chat to them first. You can listen to all previous 525 shows online if you want to, for free. The new shows are online first and free and automatically to our subscribers. It's free to subscribe, so you might as well listen to it on a podcast platform or YouTube. Come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you soon. And remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.